Judge has blocked the CDC's coronavirus restrictions for cruise lines in Florida. Last Friday, a judge issued a preliminary injunction in the Sunshine State starting July 18th. It reduced the CDC's strict testing and vaccination requirements for cruise lines into voluntary recommendations, giving Florida an early victory in its legal battle against the agency. For more on this, let's bring in Hannah Sampson. She's a reporter for the Washington Post focusing on travel news. So, Hannah, Florida, which sued the CDC in April, is arguing the agency doesn't have the power to single out an entire industry. Why did the judge side with the state?
So the judge agreed with the state and said that Florida was likely to be seriously harmed by the CDC's regulations because cruising is such a big industry there. And he said, indeed, the CDC's regulations were incredibly broad and strict and potentially overstepping its authority. And he agreed with their motion with Florida's motion that the CDC should not be allowed to enforce those rules. However, he didn't make his decision immediate like Florida wanted. He gave them a little bit of time.
So in the ruling, the judge compared the authoritarian rules to implementing, not my word, to implementing a nationwide ban on sex because of a fear of STDs. I don't understand this comparison, but maybe you can shed some light on it. The cruise industry has shown itself to be particularly vulnerable to this virus and others. Even before the coronavirus, there were other instances of, a virus or bacteria that could spread very rapidly through, a ship, which is different than a plane or a hotel. Can you just sort of tell us what the problem is with this line of thinking?
Well, that stopped me as well when I was reading the lawsuit. He said basically, if the CDC's goal is to keep a disease from spreading even from one person to another, so if they want the transmission risk to be zero, then he's just posing the question, why maybe wouldn't they consider stopping all sexual encounters to reduce or eliminate the threat of AIDS or other sexually transmitted diseases? Which seems like an interesting place to take the argument to. But basically, he was saying they were going pretty far, and his example was another example of going pretty far. But it's true. I mean, the CDC has said that the risk of COVID spreading on a cruise ship is much higher than it is on land because of the unique circumstances of a cruise ship. And that it was a circumstance that they needed to step in and take an extraordinary level of care to make sure that the virus didn't spread, and cruise lines knew the rules to keep it from spreading as well as possible.
So the injunction only applies to cruise ships departing from Florida. What does the ruling mean for other states, including, for example, Texas, which is moving to ban cruise lines from asking passengers for proof of a COVID vaccine?
Right. So Texas and Alaska had actually asked to be part of this lawsuit, and the judge hasn't ruled on that yet. So that's kind of still up in the air. And basically everything that I've seen thus far says this is a Florida-only decision. So cruises that are planning to go out of Texas can still be subject to the CDC rules, and Alaska as well, where people are planning to cruise in July and moving forward. So this shouldn't apply, but if the CDC does go ahead and change its rules, it's hard to imagine they would do that just for Florida. So, I would just stay tuned to see if they change something because of this lawsuit that then would trickle down to other states.
Hannah, maybe you can remind me, but wasn't Florida also the state, it wasn't DeSantis also the governor, who did not want cruise ships where there were positive vacationers, did not want them returning to Florida, didn't want them to be able to get off of the ships?
Yeah, good memory. And that's something that also flashed into my mind, because I remember a little more than a year ago when there was a ship with 6 people, some people who died, honestly, trying to find a port, and Governor DeSantis said, we don't want that here. We don't want people who aren't even Floridians coming into our state and taking up our hospital beds. The virus was at a different place then, but it's a strange position now compared to then.
So listen, the CDC has said that the rules are necessary, obviously, to prevent cruise ships from turning into COVID-19 hotspots, which we saw many times. So, earlier this month we saw 2 passengers test positive who were supposed to be on a Royal Caribbean cruise that was filled with fully vaccinated people. What challenges do cruise operators and states face in containing outbreaks? Do the economic benefits outweigh the risks?
So the challenge now, and I think what the cruise lines are trying to do, is to say it's pretty hard to keep COVID off of every cruise, even as we saw a fully vaccinated cruise, because there will be breakthrough cases. But the thing that they can do is to have enough measures in place to contain 1 or 2 infections and keep it from becoming the kind of outbreak that takes down hundreds of people on a ship. So with more people vaccinated, with better, with masking rules if there are unvaccinated people on board, with distancing, with all of these things that they've layered into their precautions now, the goal is really to make sure that people are as safe as possible when they're with thousands of other people on a ship, by not allowing the kinds of outbreaks that we saw a year ago.
All right, Hannah Sampson, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.